Introduction. The world is full of noise, yet human beings have become more silent on the inside than ever before. There are sounds everywhere, words everywhere, voices everywhere, but there is hardly anyone who truly listens. This is a story about the art of listening, a skill that turns a human being into a real human being. We live in an era where speaking is considered power and silence is seen as weakness. But the truth is exactly the opposite. Silence is the door through which understanding enters, while speaking often becomes the wall that blocks understanding from coming in. The greatest tragedy of human life is not that a person cannot speak, but that they cannot listen. They do listen, but they do not understand. They hear sounds, but not emotions. They catch words, but lose their meaning. Listening is not an action, it is a state of being. This state is created when a person quiets the noise within themselves. Because the one who keeps talking to their own thoughts can never truly hear the words of others. We often say that people do not understand us, but have we ever asked ourselves whether we truly understand others? Do we pause to listen, or are we only waiting for our turn to respond? A person who listens is powerful because they recognize emotions. They see the truth hidden behind words. They read facial expressions, the rise and fall of voices, and the meanings of silence. This world is full of people who speak, but history has always remembered those who listened. Because the listener does not judge, they understand. And the one who understands does not break. When a person stops listening, they also stop learning. And the day learning ends, life itself comes to a halt. The art of listening teaches us that every human being is fighting their own battle. Behind every face there is a story. Behind every silence there is noise. And if we truly learn to listen, perhaps we can connect instead of destroying one another. This story begins where a person stops speaking and starts listening with the heart. Opening the inner door. When a person begins to listen, a new door opens inside them. This door does not lead to the outside world, but to the inner world. There are no words there, only feelings. There is no noise, only understanding. There is no ego, only awareness. From childhood, we are taught how to speak, but no one teaches us how to listen. We are taught how to make our point, but not how to understand another's point. That is why we grow up with strong voices, but weak hearts. The art of listening teaches us that no human being is complete. Everyone is on a journey of learning. The one who listens deeply realizes that what the other person is saying is not the whole truth. The real truth is often what they are unable to say. Silence shows a person their reflection. When we listen in silence, we begin to hear our own weaknesses as well. The questions we have been running away from for years appear before us, hidden within the words of others. A listener does not react immediately. They take time, they understand, they weigh their words, and only then do they speak. That is why even a single word of theirs carries weight. The one who speaks too much often remains light because they cannot carry the burden of their own words. The hardest thing in the world is not learning how to speak, but learning how to listen in silence. Because in silence, a person's ego breaks, and where ego breaks, awareness is born. In relationships, we often lose because we focus on proving instead of listening. We want to win, not to understand. We want to be right, not to be close. And in this stubbornness, we lose everything that could have been saved through silence. A person who listens does not see disagreement as hostility. They know that every mind is a different world, and to understand every world, listening is more important than speaking. This art turns a person into a teacher, a guide, and sometimes simply into a good human being. Because a good human being is not the one who speaks more, but the one who understands more. When a person truly learns to listen, they no longer remain alone, because every voice connects them to someone. And the one who learns to connect never truly breaks. The art of listening brings us to a point in life where we do not need answers to everything. Understanding is enough. And understanding is a gift that is given only to quiet hearts. This is the point where a person does not think before speaking, but speaks after listening. And this is the point where life no longer feels like noise, but becomes meaning. Deepening perception. When a person reaches this level of listening, their way of seeing the world begins to change. They no longer focus only on words, they begin to recognize intention. They no longer hear just sounds, they sense pain, hesitation, and unspoken truth. They understand that behind every raised voice there is often vulnerability, and behind every long silence there is a question that has never been answered. At this stage, a person stops trying to correct or fix everyone around them. They realize that not every human being is looking for advice. Many are simply seeking to be understood. True support does not come from clever words, it comes from presence. To support someone genuinely, ears matter more than the tongue. The one who truly listens shares the weight of another's burden without saying much at all. Listening naturally leads to humility. Humility is not weakness, it is clarity. It is the moment when a person stops seeing themselves as the center of everything. They accept that other perspectives exist, that other truths are valid, and their own view is not the only lens through which life should be seen. This acceptance is not defeat, it is wisdom. Many people are uncomfortable with silence because silence exposes unanswered questions within us. In quiet moments, the mind speaks honestly, yet those who have the courage to remain in silence eventually discover peace there. Once a person makes peace with silence, noise loses its grip. They begin to understand more with fewer words and feel less need to fill every moment with sound. A true listener understands the value of timing. Not every truth must be spoken immediately, and not every pause is empty. Some silences are full of meaning, reflection, and emotional depth. These silences cannot be rushed, and they cannot be replaced by words without losing their essence. Transforming relationships and the self. This level of listening quietly transforms relationships. Arguments soften, misunderstandings dissolve, emotional distance begins to shrink. When people feel genuinely heard, defensiveness fades. The need to explain repeatedly disappears. Feeling heard removes loneliness, even when no solution is offered. A listener does not stop with others, it eventually turns inward. Those who listen deeply to people also learn to listen to themselves. They become aware of their own fears, contradictions, and emotional patterns. Self-deception weakens, avoidance loses power, inner honesty begins to grow. This journey is not effortless. Ego repeatedly demands attention. Pride urges immediate response. The desire to be right interrupts the desire to understand. But those who remain committed to listening gradually reach a point where they no longer need validation. They stop proving and start being. At this point, presence speaks louder than words. There is no need to dominate conversations or impress others. Calm attention becomes influence. Quiet understanding becomes authority. This is a form of strength that does not announce itself, yet it is deeply felt. People may forget what was said, but they rarely forget how they were heard. The legacy of a good listener lives on in trust, respect, and lasting influence. Long after conversations end, the feeling of being understood remains. The art of listening does not announce itself. It does not seek applause. It simply creates space. Space for truth, for connection, and for growth. In that space, lives change. And often, without saying very much at all, the listener becomes the most powerful voice in the room.
The hidden depths of silence. Silence is often misunderstood. Many perceive it as emptiness, a lack of action, or even a weakness. Yet silence, when embraced consciously, becomes the canvas on which understanding is painted. In the quiet, a person hears more than just words. They hear intentions, emotions, and truths that are often hidden behind carefully constructed sentences. A world without silence is loud, but a world without listening is lost. In the silence, the mind begins to slow down. The chaotic internal chatter that so often dominates our thoughts diminishes. This is not a mere pause, it is an active engagement with reality. Listening is not passive, it is the art of being present, fully aware and receptive. When one masters this, even a moment of quiet becomes transformative. Empathy beyond words. True listening is an exercise in empathy. Empathy does not begin with sympathy or a desire to fix others. It begins with attention. The listener opens their heart to experience a fraction of what the speaker is feeling. Tone, pause, inflection, hesitation, and body language all become instruments of understanding. The subtle tremor in someone's voice, the pause before a difficult word, or the hesitation of their gaze all communicate far more than words alone ever could. An empathetic listener does not seek to respond immediately. They do not impose their solutions or judgments. They offer space, a space where the speaker feels acknowledged and validated. This act, often underestimated, has the power to heal wounds that no advice or instruction could reach. The strength of patience. Listening requires patience, a quality increasingly rare in our fast-paced world. The impatient listener interrupts, assumes, or jumps to conclusions. The patient listener waits. They allow the speaker to finish their thoughts, to explore their own mind fully, without the pressure of judgment or correction. Patience transforms conversations into dialogues where understanding rather than argument becomes the goal. Patience in listening is closely tied to humility. The patient listener accepts that they do not know everything. They recognize that others' experiences are as valid as their own, and that the process of expression is more important than the need to respond immediately. Through this humility, connections deepen and trust is built. Listening as a tool for conflict resolution. One of the most profound applications of listening is in resolving conflict. Most conflicts escalate because individuals speak to win, not to understand. Words become weapons, and silence is misinterpreted as weakness or agreement. A skilled listener interrupts this cycle. They remain composed, absorb the information fully, and seek to understand the underlying emotions driving the dispute. By acknowledging feelings rather than immediately addressing facts, the listener diffuses tension. They allow space for reflection, making it possible for all parties to approach the situation with clarity rather than impulse. In this way, listening is not passive, it is a strategic act that fosters reconciliation, cooperation, and harmony. The interplay between listening and self-awareness. Listening to others is intrinsically linked to listening to oneself. As one hones the ability to truly hear another person, one becomes increasingly aware of their own internal patterns. Thoughts, biases, assumptions, and judgments are revealed. Self-deception loses power. By observing how we respond internally to what we hear, we gain insight into our own emotional landscape. This self-awareness is not merely introspective, it is practical. It allows a person to navigate relationships, work environments, and social interactions with clarity and intentionality. They respond rather than react. They lead rather than dominate. They connect rather than control. The role of observation. Listening is augmented by observation. Every expression, gesture, or micro-movement offers a clue to the speaker's state of mind. A subtle frown, a tightened jaw, or a glance away can reveal fear, hesitation, or contemplation. The attentive listener notices these details without comment, allowing them to shape a deeper understanding of the person they are engaging with. Observation transforms listening from a mere exchange of words into a multidimensional interaction. It bridges the gap between surface communication and the hidden currents of human experience. The combination of hearing and seeing, when practiced diligently, reveals the complexity of human expression. The courage to be silent. True listening requires courage. It is easier to speak, to assert one's views, to fill the silence with words. Yet silence, in the presence of another's expression, demands bravery. It demands that one resist the urge to correct, interrupt, or dominate. It demands trust in the process, trust that meaning will emerge organically, that understanding can unfold without force. This courage is most evident in moments of discomfort. When the speaker reveals vulnerability, fear, or grief, the listener may feel compelled to intervene or soothe. A courageous listener, however, maintains presence without intrusion. They witness without judgment, offering validation through attention alone. The ripple effect of listening. Listening does not exist in isolation. Each act of genuine listening creates a ripple effect. The speaker feels understood, and that understanding influences their behavior, choices, and interactions. They, in turn, are more likely to listen deeply to others. Communities, teams, and families benefit when listening becomes a shared practice. Over time, this ripple fosters environments of empathy, patience, and authentic connection. Integration into daily life. To master the art of listening, one must integrate it into daily life. It is not reserved for formal conversations or moments of conflict. Every interaction, from casual exchanges to deep dialogues, becomes an opportunity to practice. This includes listening to children, partners, colleagues, strangers, and even one's own inner thoughts. Each moment provides feedback, insight, and growth. Mindful routines, intentional pauses, and reflective practices strengthen this skill. Journaling observations after conversations, meditating on emotional responses, and reviewing personal biases all contribute to a more disciplined approach to listening. The transformative power. Ultimately, the art of listening transforms the listener. It shapes character, enhances empathy, and fosters wisdom. A person who listens deeply navigates the world with awareness, compassion, and grace. They experience relationships in their full depth, and their presence becomes a source of comfort and clarity. Listening in this way is not a tool for manipulation or strategy. It is a practice that cultivates humanity. It reveals the interconnectedness of all experiences and highlights the significance of presence over speech, understanding over argument, and attention over reaction. A continuous journey. The journey of listening never truly ends. Each conversation, silence, and observation offers new lessons. The listener learns to navigate nuance, interpret subtle cues, and discern truths beyond words. This continuous practice cultivates mastery, not as a destination, but as an evolving state of being. Through the art of listening, life itself becomes richer. Complexity is navigated with clarity. Relationships deepen, conflicts are managed with wisdom, and in every interaction, meaning emerges from the depth of attention. Conclusion: the power of being heard. The ultimate gift of listening is not merely knowledge, but presence. To be truly heard is a profound experience. To offer that gift to another is transformative. A listener, through their silent attention, facilitates understanding, trust, and connection. Without raising their voice, without asserting dominance, they create impact. This impact is lasting. Conversations that might have been fleeting gain weight. Moments that could have been forgotten become etched in memory.
Lives are touched, subtly yet profoundly, by the simple act of listening. Therefore, listening is not passive, it is active, courageous, empathetic, and transformative. And when practiced consistently, it elevates the ordinary into the extraordinary, shaping not only the listener, but everyone whose voice they truly hear.